Welcome to Country Fried Rock, where we talk with musicians to find out what inspires their creativity. Country Fried Rock, music uncovered. This week, we're featuring an encore program of Country Fried Rock from a conversation in early 2011 with songwriter Allen Thompson. At the time, he had newly released his debut album, 26 Years, full of thoughtful folk songs, and his transition from Virginia to Nashville. In the meantime, Allen Thompson put together a fantastic band and released a sophomore record with the Allen Thompson Band called Salvation in the Ground. We'll look back at that conversation from 2011 with music from both albums. If you get a chance to see Allen Thompson live, whether solo or with his band, be ready for some incredible music with deep, thoughtful lyrics full of reflection. Check him out, our encore conversation with Allen Thompson. Find him at allenthompsonmusic.com. That's ALLENTHOMPSON music.com. Sometimes you have to catch a band when they're on the road. Our guest joins us this week by cell phone.
Hi, Sloan. This is Allen Thompson. How are you?
Hey, Allen, how are you?
Doing just fine.
Well, thank you so much, Allen Thompson, for being with us on Country Fried Rock. We'll jump right in.
Okay.
Allen, how did you start to play music?
Oh, man, I don't know. I've been doing it for pretty much as long as I can remember. I suppose I was singing in church in the children's choir and then an adult choir, probably, starting at about 6, and got my first guitar when I was probably about 8 and started writing almost immediately. Started saving them when I was about 18, but I can't really remember a time when I didn't play music or didn't want to play music if I wasn't playing.
So what kind of songs does an 8-year-old boy play?
Well, let's see. I guess that would have been back in about 88 or 89. So anything that I was seeing on TNN. So everything from Alabama to Steve Earle, Dwight Yoakam, Katie Lang, back when she used to wear the square dancing outfit. I was pretty blessed that my father and my grandparents listened to a lot of really cool music, so I was exposed to a lot of the music that has influences me now when I was a child, and so I'm really blessed for that. So when you were stuck in the back seat, what were they listening to? Probably my biggest car album from being a little kid, I remember, is Guitar Town. My dad and I definitely probably went through a couple copies of that cassette, wore the magnet out. I was singing along. I knew all the words to every song very early on. That's always a big joke because my dad always knew that I was going to do this because he would just be like, I don't know how he can remember that.
As a kid, did you have one of those kid-sized guitars or were you trying to play a full-size?
I had the little kid, I had the Fraggle Rock banjo.
Oh, excellent. My
little brother had the Fraggle Rock mandolin, and so we had our very own toddler bluegrass band. Then I graduated to a regular size guitar probably when I was about 9. My grandfather bought me a nylon string guitar first, and somebody talked him into taking me for classical lessons, or I abandoned ship on that pretty quick because I remember being 9 years old and having really long fingernails and just being like, all the kids are going to make fun of me. I don't want to do this anymore. I wanted to be Slash from Guns N' Roses. I didn't want to be a guy that sat down in a suit with long fingernails. This is Allen Thompson on Country Fried Rock.
Where are you from?
I'm from Roanoke, Virginia. Definitely a lot of that mountain culture is certainly there in Roanoke.
You had a nice, obviously, support for both listening and appreciating and playing music as a kid. How did that develop? You said you started writing as a little kid, but by the time you were 18, you were actually keeping track of it.
I'm not really sure how it developed. I mean, it's kind of been one of those things where I don't have any memories of me not sort of wanting to do this as a career and not wanting just to kind of dedicate my life to songwriting and performing and singing. I know that probably about 2004 was when I started to get serious and figure out how I could actually make it a career instead of just having it be a dream and me knowing that that's what I wanted to do. But I don't really remember a time when I didn't know.
That's pretty rare.
It's cool to know, but it's also difficult to know that, the one thing that you're good at that you really want to do is probably the most difficult thing in the world for you to succeed in. And then also just to be surrounded by, all your friends that, most people when they're young don't know what they want to do.
Right.
Most people don't know what they want to do their entire life.
Absolutely. When there is no plan B, what do you do?
Exactly.
What is your songwriting or song development process? You've had a longer time doing that probably than most people.
Well, yeah, I haven't really developed a certain this is what I do every morning. I sit down, I get my coffee, and now that I live in Nashville, I definitely, I don't know if I envy, but I definitely study, some of these guys that have these set formulas and do these co-writes and things like that. Like, I think that's amazing. But what normally happens with me is either pieces of melody or lyrics will just kind of come to me, and I'll pray that I'm near a pen and paper and write them down as quick as I can. When I do get time, I'll develop it and into a real song. Or sometimes I will just sit down and I'm lucky enough for pretty much fully formed idea to appear. But the only thing I've really learned is that it's really difficult for me to force it. I've got to just kind of, when it's time, hope that I'm in a place where I can sit down and get something done.
What's been the craziest thing you've had to do so you don't lose that idea?
I was driving to work when I was living in Richmond, Virginia. I worked for this credit card company. I was driving to work, and I was already really late, and I kept, this melody just kept going over my head, and then all of a sudden, I just stopped humming and started singing, and, the full words and everything were coming out, and I'm on the interstate, and I just pulled over to the side of the road and turned on my emergency flashers and, got out and dug in the back for pen and paper and sat and wrote down the entire song. And that's the only song I've never had to revise. And that was probably the craziest for me. I remember I just sat on the side of the road. I think I just wrote the best song I've ever written. That's probably the craziest one. And that definitely happens rare. That hasn't happened again. Yeah.
Country Fried Rock is proud to announce our second compilation to raise funds and awareness for musicians' mental health services. You can help keep music alive by pre-ordering our second compilation for Nucci's Space. Check it out at countryfriedrock.bandcamp.com. All of the proceeds raised go directly to the model program for community-based mental health services, reaching the musician community of Athens, Georgia, and soon expanding to my hometown of Atlanta. Born of tragedy, but making a difference for people right now. Prevent musician suicide. You know an organization makes a difference when people like this step up to the plate and donate songs. We thank them, and we thank you for your generous contributions to preventing musician suicide. Keep music alive. I honestly don't know a whole lot about the Roanoke area in particular.
I'm from the South, so, every soft drink is CocaCola.
Yes.
No matter what is actually inside your glass or can, or what it says on the outside of the can, it's all Coca-Cola.
Yeah. Do you want a Coke? What kind?
Exactly. Exactly. I was at Wendell Smith's in Nashville. It's this little restaurant, and little restaurant / liquor store / gas station /
That's the best kind.
Yeah. It's like a cross between Waffle House and Cracker Barrel, but
with gas.
Yeah, with gas and booze. And I ordered a Coke, and the lady brought me a Pepsi. I saw her get it out of the machine. I was like, well, why didn't you tell me this was Pepsi? She was like, well, you just said you wanted regular. I said, no, I said I wanted a Coke.
Evil, evil, evil.
Yeah, you can taste the difference.
Yeah, you can.
People that say you can't, man, I don't trust them.
So as you've had an opportunity to tour, what kind of, especially early on, what sort of little regionalisms have stuck out for you, either about yourself or about where you were?
The thing that has been the strangest for me to get used to is sort of people in Appalachia. There's not really an upper class, or there's not an upper class that you really see. Everybody's pretty much lower middle class to dirt poor. Mm-hmm. Everyone goes to public school. So it's a different kind of South from once you get to the other side of the mountains and into Tennessee and Alabama and Georgia and Mississippi. There's a much larger disparity, but it's visible.
Yeah.
And I never really noticed that sort of the socioeconomic disparity and the way people, everything's sort of done with a smile in the South, just like you were saying, like bless your heart. And so the way people kind of look down on other people because they don't have the same material possessions or have the ability to ever get them. Mm-hmm. And that's not something I noticed where I grew up, but definitely being on the road and being, and going through certain areas of the South, that weren't the mountain areas is something I started to really take a lot more notice of. And, you know, I don't know what opinions, if any, I've developed on it, but it's definitely something that I've been paying a lot of attention to. That's
probably going to come out soon, I would imagine, in some of your music then.
Yeah, I think I'm definitely going to start moving in toward a more, I never thought I was going to be a protest singer, but I guess I'm going to have to.
It's entirely different to protest from within the culture.
Exactly. It really is, you know, but there's also a lot of really, the tradition of Southern writers that I really sort of aspire to become a part of, you know, whether it's musical or not. I mean, you know, Faulkner, the Carter family, Tennessee Williams, Steve Earle, Justin Earle, you know, all of those artists sort of deal with a lot. Bill Hicks is a prime example, you know, deal with a lot of those aspects of Southern life and kind of, and that sort of thing. So I kind of think it was a matter of time before I started to take note of it and start wanting to talk about it. Faulkner and Hemingway and Zora Neale Hurston and Toni Morrison are mine. It's pretty rare that you don't see something that I've totally stolen from one of them in one of my songs. I mean, you can find it all over just about everything I've released. One song in particular, Shenandoah Seraph, I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that synonym for angel correctly, but it looks good on the paper when it's written out. And the first line is, you know, she picks up my pieces and puts them back in all the right places. And that's a line from a book called Sula by Toni Morrison. And it was one of those things where I remember reading that in college and just being like, you know, that's like the total description for, like, you know, the person you meet that is just everything to you. And so pretty much the first, like, really good love song I wrote about my wife, I was like, well, that's going to be the first line.
Aww.
And, you know, and there's little things like that where I kind of try and sneak them in just because I feel like if somebody realizes I stole it, then good for them. And if they don't, then maybe they'll want to know where it came from, and I can tell them. And people don't like to read anymore, so it'd be nice if they got back to that.
Yeah, who would have thought that digital readers were going to actually increase reading amongst the American population? It's crazy.
It's good to see that coming back because things were looking pretty scary there for a real long time. It was really weird to watch, you know, at the beginning of last decade where, you know, print's sort of falling out and, you know, blogs are taking over, but you can tell that a lot of the people that are writing them aren't reading because they're not, you know, revising or it's not really readable. Being a songwriter and being an English major, it was definitely something that was bothering me. So it's nice to see, you know, reading coming back. And I know, like with iBooks and stuff, you get pretty much any classic you want for free. That's just great. I'm really excited to see that.
Younger musicians that I talk with, particularly in the last year or so, are referencing American literary classics regularly. It's really interesting.
Yeah, it really is. I think a whole lot of us, we either all were children and were somehow exposed to sort of mid to late 80s change in country music, where for a second there it really looked like things were going to be like they were in the 60s with, you know, your Buck Owens and Merle Haggard and stuff like that.
Traditional and rootsy.
Exactly. But also with this really kind of smart and literary influence vibe in the writing, and all this stuff always comes in cycles, and that laid dormant for a good long while throughout the 90s and the early 2000s. But I feel like now it's sort of coming back, and I think a lot of people my age that are doing this are really wanting to make the effort to be responsible for it coming back. The radio stations, you know, they don't take care of you like they used to. And so people are having to really look for, I mean, you know, even your regular everyday listener, they're having to really seek out stuff that speaks to them. It's good. It's also bad. But, you know, it's also nice to see people kind of waking up and being like, well, this isn't what I want to be listening to. This is what I have to be listening to because this is what you're playing. But I don't like this.
So as an independent musician, how is that working for you? How are people finding your music? What are the sources, but also where are they coming from?
You know, a lot of it came from radio. When I put 26 years out last year, I worked with a really, really great radio promotions team. This one lady who's a genius, Leslie Ruffet, who works for Songlines. You know, she really, really busted her butt to get my stuff out there. It was kind of funny. The record didn't actually do, Americana really didn't pay attention to it at all, but it was on the jam band chart, radio charts for like 5 months.
That's hilarious. I mean, it's a great thing.
Which is totally cool because, there's definitely that CSMY and Grateful Dead and stuff influence in everything I do, but it was definitely funny. I just sort of expected promoting to Americana and this is, this kind of record and this, it'll either do something or it won't, and I kept seeing it not really do anything, and I wouldn't say I was getting discouraged because I don't really care about that kind of stuff, but then I would, be checking like set lists while Further was on tour, and I'd be like, wait a minute, am I on the charts right here? What is going on? So I think a lot of the stations that a lot of people that did pick up on it, really just played the heck out of it. It's weird, my hometown too, I'll play shows and there'll be, a bunch of faces from, the crowd that I had when I was a young kid, and then there'll be a ton of new people that, we heard you on the radio, and I called in and got the free CD that they were giving away, and I'm like, wow, that's nuts. The radio played, a huge role in the success I've had over the course of the last couple of years.
That's great.
This is Allen Thompson on Country Fried Rock. So.
How about more of your internet audience? Have you had geographic places that surprised you that ended up really having a pretty decent fan base?
Europe.
Yeah.
Europe, and I wish that I had kind of been able to see that coming and take better advantage of it and set money aside to get over there and tour and, really promote to European radio. There was this, I kept watching all these CDs move on this regular basis to this one guy in Italy. And it turns out it's this guy that owns a record store in Italy and also produces like Italy's version of No Depression or they're like kind of alt country magazine. And this guy has just been like, he writes about his favorite bands and they stocks a store full of their CDs and they just move.
That's great.
And yeah, for the longest time, like I didn't know what was going on. And then one time around Christmas, the dude bought like 30 copies of my last album and 26 years. And so I was like, oh my gosh, you must be giving one to everybody for Christmas. He's like, no, I own a record store and these things are selling like hotcakes.
That's like, fantastic.
Yeah. So, and there's a bunch of like little places in Holland and in Italy and the UK where that happens. And yeah, I just wish I'd been able to see that coming. Now that I know about it, the next time around, I'm definitely going to do everything I can to get more music out to them because it seems like they just really are eating it up over there and fantastic. My friend Caitlin Rose, she's got
I love her. I didn't know y'all knew each other.
Yeah, she's just such an awesome young lady. She's fantastic, and she does amazing over there, and she's got a great team that's really kind of helping her get over there to tour as much as possible. And every day you look on her. Every blog that's posted on her Facebook, like, oh, look, I've got a new review. It's always some magazine in the UK, which is a shame because I'd love to see more of her. I never see her anymore because she's always in Europe. But
yeah. Well, let's talk a little more about what you have out right now. You've got your EP available, and it's a pretty nifty method for listeners to grab it.
Yeah. Well, I've got pretty much everything I've done is available through both my website and then the site I have through Bandcamp. On the Bandcamp site, you can download my EP, this single I released last year, and both of my full-length albums at pretty much any price you like for any quality you like. And I just sort of did that, because in this day and age, if you can't give it away, no one's going to buy it. So I just sort of want to make it available to everybody. And then also through the website, if there's anybody that you think would like to hear my music, but you don't want to spend the $10 to force a CD down their throat. And, I've made sort of a greatest hit sampler with something from each record and then a live track. And, I'll mail you as many copies of that as you want on my dime, for the postage or whatever. And you just make sure you pass them out to people that you think would care.
Oh, wow.
Basically, the way that's set up is it's right there on the front of their website. It says free music to good homes, and send me an email with your address and how many CDs you want, and yeah, you're in the email list, but you also get a bunch of free music. So, AllenThompsonMusic.com.
Country Fried Rock is a proud sponsor of Front Porch Fest, coming to Stewart, Virginia, August 30th through September 1st. Get your tickets now at frontporchfest.com. So talk a little bit about your live shows.
I put out 26 years as an acoustic record so that I could go out by myself and get away with it. The EP I did and my first full length were full band records, and I love them, and I think they sound, well, I think the Brown record sounds really great. The Highway, sounds like I was making my first record, but
that's okay though.
Yeah, but I couldn't afford to bring, a bunch of really awesome musicians from Nashville on tour, and so it starts to be kind of this thing where I show up at a bar, it's just me and acoustic guitar, and everyone's kind of like, well, where's the B3 player? So I decided to make an acoustic record for a lot of reasons, but mostly just out of necessity, because I needed another record to be out, and I needed these songs to be out, and I needed to be able to tour behind them. So most of the time when I travel, unless it's a decent paying gig, or festival, that kind of thing, I'll bring a band for those, but most of the time I just go out by myself and kind of do the folk singer troubadour thing, which actually has been a lot of fun because I'm so shy and it's so hard for me to engage the audience. It's one of those things, I think Townes Van Zandt said this too, where it's like, I love to talk, but the more I talk, the more uncomfortable everyone around me gets. So I try and keep quiet as much as possible.
That's an excellent quote.
I suffer from that as well. This has kind of taught me how to speak to people and get them engaged and get them to care. It's been good. It's been lonely at times, but it's been really good.
Your answer answered one of my other questions, which is, does your release reflect your live show? And that's a good explanation. Probably one of the clearer ones we've had.
Oh, awesome. I make it a habit trying to learn as much about making records as possible and to be as hands-on in the arrangement and production, as I can. But basically, the engineers and the guy that's, in the producer's chair are there to whatever I can't use with words. At the end of the day, I'm the one that has to go out and play this in front of strangers. And so I need to make sure that it's done in a way that I can do that. Sort of in pre-production stages on the next record, I'm wanting it to be more of a live kind of full band type thing. I'm going to start bringing the band out with me a lot more in the future. I'm just sort of taking the rest of the year off to regroup and get ready for that.
Thanks a bunch for giving us a call at Country Fried Rock.
Oh, man, thank you so much for having me, Sloan.
Sure.
It was a lot of fun. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Sure. Take it easy. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye-bye.
Country Fried Rock, music uncovered. Find our full playlist at countryfriedrock.org. You can subscribe to our weekly podcast on iTunes. Just search Country Fried Rock. Our theme music is from The Heap. Check them out at heapdeluxe.com. That's HEAPDELUXE. Our Country Fried Rock stinger is from Steve Soto and the Twisted Hearts. Country Fried Rock. Copyright 2013 by Lily Pad Productions. All rights reserved. Country Fried Rock is a partnership with the nonprofit Florence Regional Arts Alliance. Your donations to this program are tax deductible to the extent you are eligible under U.S. law. Country Fried Rock radio programs are distributed to public radio through the Public Radio Exchange, prx.org.
Ever he been helping us some country fried rock.